I think it's going to be a really healthy, competitive training camp. I think the league is going to more wings anyway, so we'll be able to experiment with lineups. We have versatility and can play in different styles in different ways. Obviously, the addition of Cam is great. Just another guy who can bring size, put pressure on the rim. But I think it just leads to a healthy environment where guys are going to get after it. They're going to compete. That's the type of guys we want in our building. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow and getting started.
With the young backcourt that you have, the young guards that you have, what are you trying to instill in them, especially on the defensive end? I'm talking about Trey and Bub in particular.
I think it goes for the whole roster. It's about building the right habits from day one. I thought we got better as the year went along last year, but tomorrow is a new day, and that starts with the habit building of how we want to play defensively. And for those guys, they've got size. Bub this is year 2, so he'll make a jump, and then Trey's going to be learning as he goes. But we expect our guys to be competitive, to fight, to be gritty, the type of things that lead to a good defensive team. But it's habit building from day one, and you can't skip those steps, and that's what we're going to be attacking starting tomorrow.
And I asked Will about visiting the Commanders practice, and you obviously did that as well. He said you sat in on some meetings. So what was your experience like going there?
Yeah, I think it's always I ask a lot of our players to improve, and you have to recognize I got a lot of work to do myself, so you try to find outlets where you can grow as a leader and as a coach. Coach Quinn and his staff invited me to come out to practice, got to sit in with them, watch how they operate. Obviously really impressed in the environment, the culture that they're building. I think you can always learn stuff from other sports and different people, and it can be from non-sporting areas too. So it's just an opportunity for me to grow. Really thankful that they gave me an opportunity to be part of what they were doing for a day. Very cool.
Brian, development obviously goes across different areas and at different times, and people do it at different speeds. How will you measure development of this team this season in terms of building the habits that lead to winning ultimately?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. First of all, I think the way I can answer is that we've had a really tremendous off season. We had a lot of days to get better. When you don't make the playoffs in the situation we are, so you have a certain amount of days that you can. And what was really proud of our guys is that how we attacked it purposely. I think we're starting to establish a standard for how we operate and do things here, how we work, and I think you guys obviously are seeing that too. We have guys who are returning from last year that I think helped establish that through the summer. A lot of our returning, I think we have 8 or 9 guys that were with me in training camp last year. So they started establishing how we do things, how we operate, how we work, and then we added guys, obviously our draft picks, and then some of our trades, and then free agency. Like, we all have guys who love to play, but I think we've established a standard for how we work. I also want to give a shout out to my coaching staff for all the tremendous work they did, but also this summer with our guys, but also our medical and performance staff. Tremendous amount of time and care and aid in helping in our players' development. But I think that's how we judge ourselves, is that we are building a certain way we do things, a certain way we work. Now we have the opportunity to transmit that into games. And that's what really tomorrow starts for. That's the greatest thing about every team in the league at this time of year, is you all kind of start from zero. And you guys have heard me many times, and I will say this when we're really good, it always starts when you got to go back to the basics. So we're going to establish a standard that we have already built of how we operate, how we work. Now that's time to really transform that to the game. And I think that's what we're looking for this year, is that how can we do that? And I think it still goes back to what we do every day. But I think we're going to see more of a transfer to the games for sure.
What will that look like on the floor if it's improving?
I think you're going to see. I think you saw this probably February 1st on for us last year. Competitive games, close-ended games. Some we won, some we lost. Establishing the brand we want to play, more defensive effort, more physicality. And then the style we want to play offensively, which I think you saw the ball moving, the ball was shared. We've talked about this, a lot of decision makers on our team who can initiate, handle, make plays. That's how we want to play. I think you're going to see more and more of that years, because now we're going into some of that corporate knowledge. We have that corporate knowledge that how we work, how we prepare, how we do things, but also how we play. So like I said, we got 9 guys returning that know the system, and then we're going to integrate some guys into it too that I think will be seamlessly into that. But we also know where we are, David. We know we're still at the beginning stages of establishing who we are, and we're not afraid to say that. And I think our fans know that we're going to put out the best for Everett every night, and that's what we're looking for every day.
Morning, BK.
Morning.
When you look at the defensive side of things, and I know you talk about the details and not skipping steps, but in the first, including preseason, let's say 20 games, what are some non-negotiable strides that you want to see taken starting tomorrow that we can start to see that progress being made?
Just probably our activity. I think I mentioned that stretch during that last year. I think we were 15th or 16th in defense, but it was disruptions, deflections, increased turnover rate, charges taken. I think our team will have growth in those things. We also have some youth on our team. That doesn't mean they can't go out there and defend, but there is a learning curve. We saw that from our initial guys at the beginning of last year with Alex and Bub and Keyshawn and Bilal being in year 2. Like, there's a learning curve to the NBA. And that's okay, because what we're trying to do is build them to be sustainable. That's the goal. No one's hiding that here. We're trying to build something that can be sustainable long term. So you're going to see guys are going to make mistakes. Is the course correction, how quickly can we eliminate those things? I think that we're going to get better and better at that. But we have a lot of guys we're going to see out there on the roster that have not experienced the NBA. So there's going to be a learning curve for them. But just like we saw with our guys last year, by the time they got to February, March, they were way better. And I think that's always what we're looking for, how we're going to be playing our best basketball at the end of the year.
And then you mentioned the amount of guys you have returning, but as well, too, you look at a guy like Chris, who you got mid-season.
Yeah.
Having him now healthy, the off-season being settled here, how much does it benefit with the young guys coming in, his leadership, but also understanding the system to try to alleviate some of those missteps or hiccups that you may experience?
Chris is terrific because he represents the type of person that we want. We want guys who love the game, who attack their craft diligently every day. So he just adds to what we are trying to already build. He's obviously had unbelievable success in his career and is a role model to our players in terms of how you operate, how you train, how you prepare, and then how you play in the games. I think our guys really leaned on him, so we're really lucky to have him. And obviously, we've added CJ too, who's in the same mold. I just think those guys that we've added fit the culture of people we want in our building. Guys who love the game, who care about their craft, and our team players. So we're excited to have both those guys.
Hi, Coach. Heather McDonough, NBC4. Good to see you. Couple for you. One, we just saw Bub out there doing his pictures and things, and one thing struck me. He was doing they said, do this, do that, pretend you're doing this, and they said, your 3-point celebration, and he said no. And then I said something to him just now, and he said, I get back on defense. I see a smile on your face. I mean, what does that make you think when you hear that?
Good coaching. That's that corporate knowledge. I'm joking, but he understands what we're doing, what we're about. Bub's got a great way about him, as you can tell. So he represents the competitiveness that we want in our group. That's what we love about Bub.
And there's a lot of young players, players that just came here that fans may not know as much. What do you want to tell fans, I guess, that you know about this group so far, maybe some that came last year, like you said, and is there an identity that you feel like they could be growing towards?
I think it's what our fans need to know is we have a culture of work. There's been a tremendous lot of work that's been done in the off season, all the way through September. Guys putting a lot of hours in, but purposeful work. It's not stuff that's just haphazard. Things are very purposeful. There's a plan for these guys, and they're guys who care and want to get better. So the guys we added through the draft, and that's Trey and Will and Jameer, they fit our culture. and what we're trying to build and the type of people we want in our environment. Guys are in the gym all the time. We feel that those are the guys who are going to help us build to be a sustainable winner. Obviously, they bring each unique things that they do in terms of their skill set, but the most important part is their character, and we're really impressed with their character.
Hey, Coach. Will Dawkins told us last week that more had to be given than earned this year. How do you plan on enforcing that to the guys who've been through preseason before and the young guys who maybe haven't been in the NBA before?
I think it just starts in camp. I think we talked about we have a pretty deep roster in a lot of ways in terms of some guys who are capable of playing and getting experience. I think a lot of that will be determined through training camp and how we build that out. But I think it will be a very competitive training camp, and I think that's always a good thing. Competition breeds improvement. You got to be challenged, and we're going to challenge each other. I'm going to challenge them. They're going to challenge me. I think that's the way we're going to attack this training camp for sure.
With regards to the overall leadership dynamic, having those young players in year 1 and 2 last year, getting a lot of minutes on the court, what kind of vocality do you want to see from them, even with the experienced players on the floor? How do you balance that, if you will, to continue to pour into the younger players in terms of using their voices?
Sure. I think the biggest thing for me is that when we identified a lot of those guys, we talked about through the draft last year, the 3 guys we drafted plus Bilal. We already have Corey on the roster. Then Anthony Gill has been here. Those guys are the ones who have established how we work. So when we bring in Will and Trey and Jameer, there's a standard for how we do things now. And that's really a lot of credit to our players on how they train, prepare, get after it every day very purposely. Those guys were going to do that anyways because those are the type of guys we want. But then when they walk in here, they're like, oh, this is a culture of work. This is an environment oh, this is intense. So everybody leads differently, but what I've been most pleased with, this is one of the things I've been most pleased with the offseason is, and all those guys played Summer League. They wanted to play Summer League. They wanted to improve. They wanted to set the tone for how we do things in practice. So when those guys came in here, they felt like, oh, this is how the Wizards operate, and that has continued through the rest of the summer. I think that's where their leadership stands out the most. Everybody's going to find their own unique voice, but to me, it's what you do on every day. Those are the real leaders, and I've been very impressed with the guys that we've brought in here and the example that they've shown this summer.
BK, you and Will have both talked about the increased competition that you're going to see in training camp this year. What are the battles that you're looking forward to seeing play out?
Vroom, you always try to get me to say something specific, and I never answer those questions. No, I like to see all of it. I think that sports is competition. They keep a score for a reason. I think for me, we're now getting to the stages of that. That's healthy. We want to see that, and that's my responsibility as the coach, is to create an environment and training sessions that can do that. Keeping scores, rewarding defense, those type of things. Those are the only things I'm going to get. But anything specific, I think those things just come out in terms of okay, who's going to separate themselves? Because eventually we're going to have guys who are going to do that, and I think that's what this year is about, and this is what these next 3 weeks is about for us.
We'll talk specifically about the wing battle with Keyshawn having emerged late last year, Cam coming in. Bilal started most of last year. He's going to miss all of training camp. When he comes back from injury, is he going to slot right back into that starting spot, or is that something he's going to have to earn back?
I have not thought 1 minute about minutes or starting for anybody. All I'm focused on is the day-to-day. Tomorrow we got practice, probably pretty defensive focused practice. We're going to attack that. Those things always kind of take care of themselves. I don't try to pre-plan those things. I'll come to that eventually, but Bilal will be a big part of what we're doing. I know that for sure.
You have a team largely comprised of players who are still looking for their first big NBA contracts. How do you manage that locker room dynamic?
Just the day-to-day. You can't get ahead of yourself. If you're worrying about and thinking about those type of things, that usually doesn't go well. we focus on the day-to-day here. How can you get better every day? And I don't worry about that with our guys. It's not even a thought I would even have, because that's the type of people we have in our building.
Brian, what are your impressions of Cam Whitmore, and what do you want to see him focus on?
It's been great getting to know him as a person. Really enjoyed having him in our environment. He's obviously someone that we've thought really highly of. I know Will had probably talked about that in the draft process a few years ago. Someone we've kept an eye on. The physicality, his athleticism, his dynamic ability to attack the rim. But we're excited to see him in our environment. We're really pleased to have Cam. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Good to see everybody.